Anin Oshkinishnabe Dug. You have the right to say no to alcohol. You can resist alcohol or anything else you may feel pressured into. Be a wellness warrior. Be strong and proud. Stand up straight. Make eye contact. Say how you feel. Don't make excuses. Stick up for yourself. Remember, our culture is prevention. This message is brought to you by the Mino Mikana, the Becker County Children's Initiative, and the Big Elbow Lake Area Community Council.
Long time ago, there was a big meeting of the animals up by Lake Superior, by the Great Lake. And people don't realize it, but the animals can talk. And they have their own way of communicating with each other, their own language, their own styles. And then, but the animals used to get together and they would have emergency meetings whenever there was a pending danger, and like a forest fire or a earthquake or a flood or a wendigo, or that cannibal that eats people and animals. They would have an emergency meeting to strategize how to deal with the impending danger. And one time, it was in the fall of the year, it was cold, and the animals gathered together, but nobody of the animals knew why they were gathering together. They were right in a clearing by Lake Superior. They were so close to Lake Superior, you could smell the water. You could smell that lake smell. And it was at night, it was a full moon, and you could see your shadow in the moon. And there was bear, deer, moose, raccoons, partridges, chipmunks, squirrels, every kind of bird you can think of, eagles, hawks, owls, all the animals, foxes, bijou, that's Canadian lynx. And they are all gathered together. There was hundreds of them. They were gathered together in a clearing in the forest there, very near to Lake Superior. And they were asking each other in their own animal languages, how come we're gathered together? What's going on? Is there a forest fire? Is there a flood? Is there an earthquake? What's happening? Is the hunters indiscriminately killing us, the humans? Nobody knew. They just shook their heads. They were trying to figure out. They were trying to problem solve, because they knew instinctively that they had to get together to solve some kind of problem. Well, lo and behold, they looked up and there was a hill coming down to that clearing. And there was an animal walking towards them. But they noticed he was walking on two legs like a human being, like a Shinabe, like an Indian. And he was swinging his arms back and forth when he walked, and he was zigzagging on and off the path. And one ear stood straight up and one ear flopped in front of his face back and forth like this. And it was a wabus, a rabbit. And he walked right in the midst of those animals and he said, "Boo!" He said, "You fraidy cats, you have another one of your fraidy cat meetings. Oh, the sky is falling. Oh, there's an emergency. You all make me sick." He said, "You ain't tough like me. You ain't brave like me. You ain't handsome like me." And there he was. His fur was all matted. His ear was hanging down in front of his face. He was just a sight. Kind of dirty. He was scrubby looking. And they noticed too. He said, "Bonjour, Nejiok." Hello, my friends, in Ojibwe. He was speaking Ojibwe instead of Wabo-Samoan rabbit language. And the animals were all very quiet. They were spellbound by this spectacle, what they saw. They watched very carefully. And that Wabos, that rabbit, he looked over in the corner and he saw a big bijou, big Canadian lynx. He said, "Bijou, Ninishkadish skin. I'm mad at you," in Ojibwe. He said, you make me sick. You kill my kind. You chase us, hurt us, kill us, eat us, scare us. The party's over. I got a notion to give you a few good slaps. And he walked right over to that big Canadian lynx, that big cat. He grabbed him by the nape of the neck and he shook him around and he started punching him and he hit him in so hard that cat fell down. He saw stars. And that cat jumped up and he showed his teeth and he says, "Look at my teeth, you little BB-eyed bag of fleas." He says, "I could bite you in two." And he says, "That's exactly what I'm talking about, how you're behaving." He said, "I ought to give you another punch." And that cat said, "You better not." And then that rabbit said, "Well, I'm sick of you. You're bothering us all the time." And standing over in the corner was a wagush, a fox. He was laughing. And that wagush, he was getting mad. He said, "Wagush, hey, Red, Fox, how come you're laughing at me? You make me mad. You really make me mad. I'm more mad at you than I was at this bijou, this cat. You've been chasing us, killing us, hurting us, scaring us, eating us. The party's over." He says, "I'm going to grab you and knock you around too." That fox kept laughing. He walked right over, he staggered over there, zigzagged over there. He grabbed that fox by the nape of the neck and he shook him around, punched him, kicked him, threw him down and punched him some more. That fox saw stars too. And the fox jumped up and he showed his teeth and he says, "I could eat you in one bite." He says, "Shut up, I'll give you another swat," he said. And then all the animals started to say, "Hey, Wabos, Rabbit, how come you have such false courage? We notice you walk on two legs like a human being. We notice that you act violent. We notice you're unkept, you're not groomed well. You're not speaking your Wabos language, your rabbit language. You're speaking Ojibwe like those Indians. And you know what we notice? You don't teach your young kits, your little rabbits, how to take care of themselves. You don't know where they are. They're out lost. You don't teach them how to make their hutch warm, gather food, make it through the winter. You don't teach them about the Creator. You don't teach them about spirituality. You don't teach them about your own Wabos language anymore because you speak Ojibwe. And you're drunk and you steal. You stole whiskey from those Indians that been trading with those fur traders. And to this day, that's why animals don't drink alcohol.
There were 12-year-old kids drunk at the party.
First time I drank is when I was about 14.
The first time I actually drank, but not just like sipped it or like tasted it or anything. It was like 11, almost 12, you know.
First time I ever drank was when I was 11, but I really only took a couple of shots.
There's about 3 million childhood alcoholics now.
First time I drank was when I was 10. Me and my dad were out hunting.
It was about a year ago when I drank a couple of shots of liquor and
They were hollering back and forth. They were fighting.
They start fighting and they don't know what the heck they're doing.
Got trapped and ended up burning alive, all due to alcohol.
And there was 2 twin brothers and they were drinking. So we lifted the truck off the guy between 5 of us. We lifted the truck up enough so we could pull him out and just watch that guy take his last couple breaths.
My friend got into an accident and she jumped in with some drunk drivers and none of them were old enough to be drinking or whatever. And,
got into using alcohol and he hung himself.
And their murder is never found, but the night before they were at a party, 13 years old, they were at a party.
And that's where we found the little girl. And the parents were so drunk that they didn't even realize, what had happened and where their daughter went.
I lost a cousin to drunk driving, and her friend who was a driver, she died 2 days later after my cousin died.
Wherever I go on a reservation, I can see that, what alcohol had done to our young kids.
And the drunk driver didn't die, just my uncle.
My friend that died, his brother's girlfriend died, and the 2 other guys in the car.
With all the efforts that we're doing, nobody else is picking it up. The parents aren't picking it up. There's so many households where the parents don't even mention that drinking is wrong or anything like that.
I had they were kind of like aunties to me. They were murdered. Their car was lit on fire, and it was after a night of drinking too.
I seen lots of adults letting kids drink around the White Earth, and just going to parties around here. They even offered me drinks before.
My mom lost her arm when she was 19 because of a drunk driver hit her when she was walking on the side of the road. My brother died too because
In 2004, 40 White Earth grassroots members participated in White Bison's 7 trainings. These individuals learned how to facilitate groups for men and women in recovery, prevention programs called the Daughters of Tradition and Sons of Tradition, Children of Alcoholics, Indian Al-Anon, and family groups. These programs are creating a healing forest on the White Earth Reservation. These 7 trainings have been developed around teachings of Native American elders from many nations.
Yeah, I think the Three Sisters story just really puts it in perspective for us as Native communities. And the story goes that there were these 3 sisters were walking down this path, and they were kind of talking amongst themselves and having a lot of fun. And the path turned, and it started to travel right along this river. And as they were talking, they looked and they heard some noise. They looked in the water, and they seen these babies were floating down the water. Some had already, was too late to help them, and some were struggling and coughing. And the first sister, she goes, "Oh my God!" and she just runs right in the river, clothes and all, and she was grabbing those babies that were still alive, and she would run them up to the shore, and she'd struggle back in that water, and she'd grab another one and run it back up to the shore and just lay it on her, just trying to save as many as she could. But there was too many babies coming down the river, so she screamed at the second sister. She says, "Get in here and help." And so she went running in, clothes and all, and as she was running into the river, she was evaluating, and she said, if I could teach these babies how to swim, she said, I could save more of them because I wouldn't have to go all the way up to the shore and back. So she'd hold this little baby up, and she'd look at it, and she'd go like that and put it down there, and pretty soon that baby would go like that, and she got it to dog paddle, and she'd encourage it and run and grab another one. So she was in there just teaching these babies how to swim, and the other one is still
running them up to the shore and bringing them back, but they still couldn't keep up. So they screamed at their third sister. She was watching those two, and they said, "Get in here and help." And man, she just stood there like paralyzed, and they was so upset with her. They screamed even louder. They said, "You get in here and help." And she just stood there. Finally, she took off running, but she went running upriver because she too was evaluating, because she was thinking to herself, she's watching them put them to the shore and teaching them to swim, and still there was babies coming down the river. So she thought to herself, she said, why are these babies coming down the river in the first place? So she was running upriver to see at what point were those babies coming into the water. Kind of the moral of that story is, a long time ago, we didn't have babies coming down the river. We didn't have suicide. We didn't have teenage pregnancy. We didn't have this issue with drinking. Something happened. And this is how the elders explain this to us. If you put the culture upriver and you teach the children the culture, the babies the culture, the parents the culture, what'll happen, that flow will stop coming down the river. That the culture is the prevention.
The strongest people I've met in Indian country have been the people who have gone back into the language and culture, into the values and the traditions, and are living that way. It doesn't mean that they quit driving cars or quit going to bingo. It means that they live what they know. They've picked up what made us strong as a people, and they went back and they not only live that way, but they pass that on by their lifestyle.
And I get up there and I'll tell them, my name is George Fairbanks, Joe Bush. I said, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm glad to say, I can say that I'm an alcoholic, because I used to drink 30-some years ago. And
how did you stop? What happened?
My family. I lost my family for about 3 months after my drinking.
Well, there's certain things that I have in my life right now. Like, what's the date today?
January 16th.
See, it's been 1 year and 7 days now that I've been sober. Like when I was before, I had no reason to quit. I just didn't really have it. Now we have this drum.
To be able to sit at that drum, you've got to be clean. You can't use drugs. You can't use alcohol. You got to be drug-free, alcohol-free to be on that drum.
It's not a mystery, and it's not something that we can't achieve. And if we get on that road, if we live that right road, that right way, if we follow that, if we make the attempt to follow it, we gain that inner strength. We gain balance in our lives. And it's the balance that everyone sees.
Daughters of Tradition is a prevention education program for Native American girls. It is designed to coincide with the school year and also extend into the summer months. The primary themes of the Daughters of Tradition program is being good at something, being good for something, and developing an identity as a Native American woman. The program is based upon the teachings of the Native American elders and clan mothers.
Some kids on the res, they're not aware of their culture. They don't really know what it involves, like how to be Medewi. I think it's good for the girls being Daughters of Tradition because it creates like family ties, makes closer friends, you get to know other people.
The language, and I like staying connected with it, that's why I keep coming back.
I learn about how to respect people, and I want them to respect me back, so hopefully, yeah.
Improving relationships between adults and children.
We learn how to cook fried egg.
A lot of people come every week just to learn more about ourselves and
I learn something new every time I come back about what drugs do to you and alcohol, and learn new things about language. I used to drink myself, but I quit.
Before you start drinking, you could ask yourself, do I really want this for my life?
So when we made the Daughters of Traditions 2, what we found out is the boys were coming to it. They were kind of like sneaking in, because when they started to hear this, and I think they started to see those girls change. So then we developed the Sons of Traditions.
Sons of Tradition is a prevention education program for Native American boys aged 13 to 17. The focus of this program is establishing identity and learning what it is to be a Native American man. The curriculum is based upon the teachings of the Native American elders and clan mothers.
And you should join because it helps you out and learn about things that you may not have learned about when you were young.
Because it's fun.
Sons of Tradition, I think it helps how to be there. It helps me to be there for people and stuff, and talk more about my problems.
I'm thinking of this as like a last chance. You know, like we could be the last chance and keep this culture going and teach it to the even younger kids and stuff.
Sons of Tradition means to me where I can learn about my culture and get more into my heritage, and also it keeps me away from drugs, and I haven't done any since I started this.
Come dancing, praise the Almighty with the beat. Yeah,
It can help me, I know it can help other people.
And if you don't like being seen by your kids, seeing you get sick and act stupid and stuff.
They need to be more disciplined, because around White Earth all we have is too much freedom.
And it hurts us physically and emotionally. You see accidents, you see people regretting things when they get drunk.
I feel scared and mad at the same time. Because I don't want to be around them, because when they yell too loud. And they always fight.
I'm Don York and I'm guilty.
I don't know why you're doing it, because it doesn't taste all that good.
It was always my idea to keep our kids happy and do what they want to do. And when graduation came around, I worked a big spread with sandwiches and beer, and kids would come in and we would tell them stay in the yard and they can drink, and to not realizing the effects that alcohol has on young people. Their bodies are 100, 120 pounds.
You're really injuring your liver. You're injuring kidneys. You're injuring your whole insides. Everything inside. You're totally messing your chemical balance up. And I mean, some of these kids just don't care. They go out, they drink, and.
One thing that I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years, my second graduation was a non-alcoholic graduation, and all people had just as much fun, and I felt better when they were driving home and so on and so forth. So I plead guilty to permissiveness and ignorance. Now that I've been with Sons and Daughters of Tradition, the kids have taught me in the last year and a half how important through their eyes it is that we lead them.
And the parents, I would tell them the same thing. Sit down with me. Each and every one of you, sit down with me. And I'll tell you which way you're going and how to leave that alcohol alone. And not by you not taking the alcohol, you're showing your kids you got the backbone, you got the right to leave it alone, and show their children leave it alone. How to leave it alone.
Us kids, we don't have access to any places to buy alcohol because we're underage, and mostly all the parties and stuff that kids are at, the parents are always the ones that buy them the alcohol.
Like when you see that little kid that you used to walk around in diapers and they're sitting right next to you at the party. It's like, wow, it's like, get out of here, you know? And you see other adults and they're just like, you know, have a beer. And this is like this 16-year-old kid, and it's like, send them home and get them out of here.
You know, I guess if you want to come out to an accident scene and see your kid underneath a blanket somewhere, you know, that's something you're going to have to be willing to accept. Or you can watch them underneath the blankets of their bed at home at night, safe and sound. And because you said no, you can't go out to that party, or no, you can't do this. They might be mad at you, but in the long run, you still have your kids.
You know what, if you guys don't drink, we won't drink either.
And we don't like when our parents do it. We know our parents don't like when we do it, so if we quit, then we'll be happier.
Sometimes they say, hey, like they could be doing something worse, you know? But I don't know, I don't think they should be setting a good example for them, and they shouldn't even be doing it either if they are.
Parents, adults, please don't buy us kids alcohol because it ruins our lives.
It's too lenient. Kids just get away with drinking.
Us kids, we don't have no access or anything to bars or anything like that to get alcohol. So we have our parents or anybody that's old enough to buy alcohol and stuff for us, and we're underage and we go to parties that we're not even supposed to be going to, and we always get drunk.
And in school, we're always told that we can make a difference, and I believe that, you know, through and through. But it's so hard to make a difference when the parents are sending the wrong message to us, you know, that underage drinking is okay and substance abuse is okay, and when all that happens, it's really hard to make a difference because they're in our way. They're an obstacle, and how do you overcome your parents?
You're not hurting yourself, you're hurting them, you're hurting the kids and everything.
Instill responsibility into them at a young age, and hopefully it'll stick. Hopefully they'll make the best judgment of their life and stay sober.
From my own youth, I started drinking pretty young. That it really took a long time for me to recover.
Kids, I ask you, leave it alone for your good, for the best of your life, and you'll live a good life by leaving it alone.
Somebody told me a story that if you left the table, there were 4 or 5 people around the table and you were with them drinking, and you got up and you left that table and you sobered up and you came back to that table 20 years later, and those people remained drinking, they'd still be talking about the same thing. They would not have grown. They would not have moved. They would still be in the same place, just 20 years older. Life would have passed them by. And it's true. I couldn't believe it. I've gone back to family members and they haven't grown up. They are still where they were 20 years ago. They're stuck.
Oh yeah. I guess I wasted half of my life. You know, I'm 30 years old and I drank for 15 of it. You know, I think about that time and where I would be right now if I hadn't, you know.
I think that's the number one thing. Anybody can say no, and it's walking away and saying no and feeling good about it.
I think that kids need to seek out some of their elders, and they need to seek them out and begin to find those elders that are out there who can really provide them with some information, who can really be there for them when they need to. And they are out there. There are elders like that out there who are available.
I would say to any youth that drinking is a way to end a future. If you want to pursue anything in life, drinking should not be any part of it.
But drinking is not good for a person. They should see the people that drinks, how they end up with cirrhosis and all that stuff, you know, sickness. and they die from it.
Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave that alcohol alone. That isn't what your thing. That isn't what the Creator wants you to ruin your life with that alcohol. I know how it ruins people's lives and families and everything else, or jobs, whatever you got.
That's what alcohol does to people. It makes us have to look at life and death so many times. And a lot of times it's a life that ends before it's ever begun, or that life has been cut short by alcohol poisoning and bitch drinking. And there's no reason for it. There's nothing there. It's such an emptiness.
When you are a warrior, you have to be willing to walk alone. You've got to be willing to say, I made this decision for me.
Early Head Start programs, child care programs, that's where we begin. And we don't go in there with a whole program or curriculum to begin with as dealing with the prevention of alcoholism. I think we go in there with a program that helps these kids to begin to feel good about who they are. That means culture.
Our culture is prevention.
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 I see you dancing in a good and sacred way. I feel you dancing, joy shining from your face. I know you're dancing in honor and with thanks. I watch you dancing. You're full of beauty and of grace. From both directions, they come dancing.
Our culture is prevention.
Our culture is prevention.
Our culture is prevention. And I'm just going to say this in Ojibwe. May we in the moon, you, as you chigang on one mungum, you, on the Shinabe, chigang on one mungum, Bunatun, you, the object to egg, you, Monaduk, Gawinders, you know, maybe question, Nagin, the object to egg, you, that's like a spay when. Yoga waiting on Bunatun.
The drum is calling in a good and sacred way. Dance for the people, young and old, small and great.
Our culture is prevention.
Our culture is prevention.
Our culture is prevention.
What must we not whisper anymore? What must we say louder and louder and louder? And so I'll tell you what I think that is. Our culture is prevention. Our culture is prevention. Our culture is prevention.